Hello, this is Mari Lane on the Buying Space channel. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day, and it is about love. And I wanted to dedicate this reading to my Aunt Irma and my Aunt Claudia, who we lost this past month. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I have become sounding brass or a clanging cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, but I have not love, it profits me nothing. Lord suffers long and is kind. Love suffers long and is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself. It is not puffed up, does not behave rudely, does not seek its own. It is not provoked. Thinks no one evil. Does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth. Bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails, but whether them are prophecies, they will fail. Whether there are tongues, they will cease. Whether there are knowledge, it will vanish away. For we know in the part, and we prophesy in part. But when that which is perfect has come, that which is in part will be done away. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. For now we see a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but when I shall know just as I also have known. And now abide faith, hope, love, faith, hope, love. These three. But for the greatest of these is love. Both of my aunts love their children and their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren and all of their nieces and nephews. My Aunt Irma was my aunt by marriage. She married my father's older brother. And my father loved his brother. And his brother moved to Florida in the 1960s. And it wasn't until about 25 years later I didn't count up the years, but it's about 25 years later that my father also moved to Florida to be near his brother that he loved. And when I was a child, every summer we would come down, or almost every summer, we would come down to Florida from up north. And my Aunt Irma treated everyone wonderfully. She was an immaculate housewife, and they had a pool. I mean, my Uncle Clarence smoked, and as soon as he put out a cigarette, she cleaned that ashtray. I wouldn't say she bleached her house every day, but she probably bleached her house every week. I mean, immaculately clean. And every meal was on the table for all of us without question. I mean, as a child, I just took it for granted. And not just for me and my dad and my brother, but for mom too. And she was also a housewife. I mean, she just treated us like gold. And I know that she did that for her side of the family too. I know that her side of the family had come down. I remember one year we were coming down for vacation and something got delayed because one of her nephews broke through a plate glass window on the way to the pool. And that had to be repaired. And it delayed something for us. But they would always host people over the summer coming down on vacation from both sides of the family. And just the epitome of hospitality and love. And my Aunt Claudia, she also loved her whole family and her nieces and nephews. And of course, when we were children, she would watch us. And they had a pool table and had a ping pong table. And we were just over there all the time. And before they moved to that house, they had a ping pong table and a big train set in the basement. And, we just had hours of fun, uh, hanging out with her cousins. And, she was also very hospitable. Of course, she put us to work too. But it helped us learn responsibility. I mean, it wasn't anything like scrubbing the floors or anything, but if a piece of furniture needed moved, my brother was volunteered. But she loved us, and that love extended into my adulthood because one year my estranged husband showed up at my door, and I had a domestic violence injunction on him. And he was looking for our child. And he had his girlfriend with him, and they were going to leave the state and take our child with them. So he didn't know where our child was. So I went and picked up my child from school, and I called Aunt Claudia, and I said, Aunt Claudia, Jim and his girlfriend were here, and they're leaving the state. So I knew I couldn't go to my parents because he'd look there, and I didn't think he would look. Maybe he would have looked at Irma and Clarence first, but I knew he wouldn't drive all over Northeast Florida. So we went to Clay County and stayed for 3 days, and in those 3 days, they left the state. And then when we went home, after we got confirmation that he was at his mother's, then when and he was gone for months, him and his girlfriend, and we had no idea when he was coming back. And it just so happened when he came back, we were in California visiting my brother. Is the week he came back, and him and his girlfriend got arrested and were in jail by the time we got home from California. And he remained in jail after that. She was on probation, but she wasn't going to come get her boyfriend's child with him in jail. So God protected us, and Aunt Claudia protected us. And my brother and sister-in-law inadvertently protected us. We didn't know when he would be back. And it was just meant to be that we were protected. But my family, when I was young, the extended family would get together every single solitary Sunday almost. I mean, it was, Thanksgiving wasn't all that much more special, or Christmas dinner, because it was all the time that the great aunts and uncles and the aunts and uncles and everybody from the community were at my grandmother's house having dinner. And it was just, you didn't have to lock your doors, and you didn't have to worry about your children being picked up. I remember one time I was in high school, and me and 3 other friends went to Charleston, the next city over. And my dad knew it before we pulled out the driveway. And my dad came out and asked me about it. I'm like, yeah, we went to Charleston. you know, he was ready to bear down on me about it because I didn't ask permission, which I should have. But he didn't worry about me because he knew who I was with and where I'd gone, because there were no strangers, and the community was full of love for everybody. And that's how I grew up. And I see how things are today. It makes me want to weep. I saw Mimi the other day that said, why do we wonder why families are falling apart? We should know they're falling apart because we're burying the people that were the glue that held us together. And my Aunt Irma and Aunt Claudia, they were that glue that held our families together. I know a lot of times when grandparents pass away, that families separate into their own groups, and each sibling has their own family, especially, you get over 60 and you got children and grandchildren and maybe great grandchildren on the way of your own in your branch of the family. So when the grandparents die, people don't see each other as often. But that didn't happen in our family when the grandparents died, because Aunt Irma and Aunt Claudia were there. I don't know that there will be a continuation of family gatherings. There really hadn't been since the pandemic, but I hope there are. But if each little group goes to their corner, I'll understand it, because our family was fortunate enough to have an extension of that time. But, my parents' generation was still having gatherings. I miss those days. I missed those days yesterday. I've missed those days for 5 years now. Since the pandemic, I went to one family gathering since then. And I really miss my family, my extended family. But that's the way it goes. And this is the end of an era for my family. Some deaths are more impactful than others. And I just am hopeful when I get to heaven that we'll have a wonderful reunion. I'm not in any hurry for that reunion, don't get me wrong, but it will be lovely to see all my aunts and uncles when I go. You all have a wonderful and blessed day.